and welcome to Chrissy's Coaching Corner. In this series, we are practicing self-coaching in an effort to challenge ourselves to lead the path to a more fulfilling life. I hope to inspire and motivate others to do the work with me as I share my own breakthroughs and self-work. Before we get started, I would like to showcase another small Black-owned business. I showed this shirt before when I first won it. I won it on a giveaway on Instagram. But so this shirt, it says dope, D-O-P-E, deadly, offensive, petty, emotional. I just like the pink and I think it's really cute. It's really, really comfortable. It's really soft. And let's talk about this business owner. I follow her on Instagram. She also has a YouTube channel. So this business owner, her name is Red Joy. So REDDJOY_84 on Instagram. The product clothing line is the Black Collective. So that's the THE BLAQUUOLLECTIVE. I think that's really creative. And she has sweatshirts, like funny, comical sweatshirts. She has some t-shirts. I think she has some water bottles, some coffee mugs. Take a look at her website. Check out her website. And of course, her website is linked to her Instagram. So if you go to her Instagram and you want to go shop, feel free to do that. Also, her and her husband have a podcast where they talk about issues related to, being a couple, being married for a while. They've been married since they were like in high school. Like they've been married for a while and they're about my age, right? So just talking about marriage, talking about the trials and tribulations when it comes to marriage, talking about Black culture, talking about the things that Black children have to experience in school. They are very much an eclectic vibe and they have a really good message, and they have a really funny banter. So check them out. If you're interested on YouTube, it's the Code Dependent Podcast. So the code CODE Dependent Podcast. So check them out when you want to. So we are back to reading this book, Life Coaching for Successful Women by Valorie Burton, who is a certified personal and executive coach. This week we are going to be in chapter 7. Chapter 7 is titled Humility in the Right Place. It starts off with the scripture, humble yourselves before the Lord and he will lift you up. James 4:10. There's a point to ponder. Sometimes you have to fail miserably to be forced onto the right path. And now we'll get started with the chapter. To say my first year of college was a humbling experience is an understatement. I went from a high school career good enough to get me into one of the toughest universities in the nation to spending an entire year on academic probation. I don't mean I got a D in one class academic probation. I mean like I'm failing 2 classes and thank goodness swimming is a class because it's my only hope for B, academic probation. Other stuff stressed me out that year too, like the average 4 hours of sleep I was getting, like my parents' divorce during my first semester, like the day I was so buckled over with pain on the lower right side of my abdomen that I had to be wheeled into the emergency room because I could not stand up. They thought maybe it was my appendix. Turned out I needed surgery for an ovarian cyst that burst that morning as I was preparing to march to breakfast with my squadron. The rigorous physical and military schedule was tough, but that wasn't what stressed me most. It was the fact that nothing came naturally to me in that environment. It was a true honor to be at the Air Force Academy, but it wasn't my calling. Truth is, if I had done well academically, I would have stayed rather than leaving after my first year. Sometimes you have to fail miserably to be forced onto your right path. Sometimes an intense struggle isn't God's way of teaching you something, but rather God's way of telling you that you are moving in the wrong direction. Rather than forcing something that doesn't fit or beating yourself up for not being good enough, why not ask this question? Is it possible that there is a better path for me? one that aligns with my unique gifts and strengths? And if so, what is it? You must find the right place for you, whether in your career or relationships. The place that looks impressive to everyone else may not be the right place for you. A good place isn't the same as the right place. That was really good. That was really, 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 really good. Okay, so my challenge to you, if you're moving in the wrong direction, be humble and willing to change course. Do we do that? Or do we plug away and just continue because we think that's what we're supposed to do? Food for thought. Now, the coach yourself questions are, in what way or ways are you forcing something to happen that simply is not a good fit? In what way or ways does pride or caring too much about what others think keep you moving in a direction that is not meant for you? What new direction might it be time to embrace? You guys, that was really good. All right, so I have some things to share with you. All right, so let's start with the first question. So the first question was, in what ways are you forcing something to happen that simply is not a good fit? So I wrote, I can honestly say that I am in a space right now where I am not doing this at all, not in any area of my life, and that is so freeing. The most recent example of this is when I was in grad school. I went because I wanted to have that MS at the end of my signature. And this was very recent, guys. Like, I stopped going in January. So I said, I went because I wanted the notoriety that comes with the title. Maybe it was the wrong program for me. Maybe it wasn't the right time. Maybe I will one day be interested in pursuing a degree that speaks to my soul. I am an avid learner and I am always seeking knowledge. I don't know. The funny thing is, I was an A+ student. I had been inducted into an honor society. I was 1 semester and 2 finals away from graduating. The prize was so close. I could smell it. I could feel it on the tips of my fingers, but I just could not go on. I couldn't do it anymore, guys. I remember the moment I decided I just couldn't do it anymore. It was during finals week, my second to last semester. As I sat down to write my paper, I remember feeling like I was punishing myself. I knew I had been forcing it since the second semester, but I kept pushing. I kept going. But when I sat down to write that paper, something shifted. I had just started my YouTube journey and my life coaching journey. I remember thinking all I wanted to do was read through my life coaching coursework and record a video and post it. It was at that moment when I decided I was done. I could not write one more single word in an attempt to get me closer to that degree. I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it anymore. I dreaded every assignment. I loathed going to class. I had a disdain for the entire experience. I came to the conclusion that it wasn't for me. Instead of just pushing through like I always have done, I let it go. I have no regrets about it. In that moment, I reclaimed myself and started on this journey of the unknown, a journey that I never thought I would be on, one that frightens me and excites me all at the same time. And doing so has opened so many new doors for me, new connections, new experiences, a new life, all because I decided to listen to my heart and my soul instead of continuing to let my head lead me. Guys, I have let my head lead me my whole life. I started listening to my heart. So the second question is, in what ways does pride or caring too much about what others think keep you moving in a direction that is not meant for you? I said pride kept me going to grad school after the first semester, although I hated it. I pride myself in finishing what I started. Quitting was not an option until it was the only option, and I no longer considered it quitting. I renamed it to following my heart. I kept it to myself for a while. I was afraid of how others would view me. So I was kind of ashamed because I've always been someone to push through, to make it happen, despite how I'm feeling, despite what my body is telling me. I've always been, I can just ignore it, I can shut it off. Logically, I can make this make sense enough for me to finish. I've always been that in most of my circumstances in life, and I feel like that's a part of my detriment to certain experiences, but that's a whole nother story. I digress. So I said, I was afraid of how others would view me. As time progressed, I started sharing the news slowly. So I shared it with one friend. I shared it with another friend. I shared it with my sister. I shared it with, I think I slowly started sharing it at work too, because it was like, oh, when are you graduating? When are you graduating? And I'm like, And I finally admitted to those, I'm like, listen, that's just not where I'm at right now, and I'm okay with it. But I had to be comfortable with explaining and expressing that, as opposed to hiding it like it was something to be ashamed of. It's not to be ashamed. There's nothing to be ashamed of by deciding that something is not right for you, by going along the path, realizing that this is what I said I wanted all of these years, and it's just not for me. That's okay. But we should not be ashamed of that decision and transition in our life, because at the end of the day, it's my life to decide how and what I want to do with it. And if it doesn't feel purposeful and it's not filling my soul, and I feel like I'm punishing myself for it, that is not how God intended us to live our lives, right? So we should be going out boldly, making mistakes, taking chances, realizing what does and does not work for us, and letting the things go that we realize do not serve us, and letting the things go that we know don't sit with our soul and does not fit for us, right? So I said, I started sharing the news slowly. Now I am embracing it as a part of my story. It is a part of me, and I am not ashamed about it anymore. And I no longer care what anyone else thinks about it. And that is so peaceful and freeing, guys. When you finally come to a point in life where you realize the importance of the things that make you happy and how much peace that gives you, you start not to care about what other people think. Because at the end of the day, and I've talked about this in one of my when I was walking, my morning messages, 100 years from now, will it matter what someone thought about the fact that I dropped out of grad school? Will that matter? What impact will that have on society? Like, what impact will that have on future generations to come? Or is it better and more purposeful and meaningful for me to boldly say, I stopped that, but I started a YouTube channel, sharing my stories and my struggles. I connected with women of the same similar mindset, and we have built a connection so strong. We're doing self-love, self-care retreats. We're helping women that have been depressed, downtrodden, lacking self-confidence. While we are working on ourselves, we are helping other people grow and work on themselves too. All because we decided to step out on faith and do the things that spoke to our heart and our soul. Which one is gonna be more prominent and make more of an impact? The fact that I quit grad school because it wasn't for me, or the fact that we collectively, because we all decided to step out on faith, are helping souls, are saving souls, and continuing on with our purpose, the things that we were put here to do, the things that God has assigned us to do. Which one matters more? So when you look at it like that, perspectives can shift, right? Things can shift and change. Okay, so the last question, what new direction might it be time to embrace? And I said, I can honestly and proudly say that I am headed in that new direction currently. The one where my story is helping others pull themselves out of depression, where me showing my vulnerabilities and struggles is helping another woman fight through her own. The one where we are growing, learning, and sharing with each other as we work on ourselves publicly, so other women will know that it is okay to do the same. It is okay to be depressed and to work through your depression. It is okay to admit when you're having a bad moment. It is okay to admit that you fall short. It is okay to share the things that happen in your life that are messy, that are not so perfect, because no one is perfect. But in doing that and having those vulnerabilities shared, you're showing the world, and to those that need it, whoever is finding my channel, you know, they're supposed to be here for a purpose, right? There's a reason behind it. So you're showing people that their story matters and their story means something, and stories can benefit other people. Like, our stories are our stories to learn and to grow, but I truly believe that our stories are also there to help, inspire, motivate, push somebody else. It could be one person, I don't know. It could be two, I don't know. But there's a purpose and a meaning behind everything. God has a bigger plan, and it's not for us to try to figure out what that plan is. It's not for us to try to spearhead it and troubleshoot it and micromanage everything. It is for us to listen to what is truly in our heart and soul, because that is God's way of communicating what He wants us to do while we are here. So that wraps up this chapter. I thought it was amazing, and I am learning so much more about myself as I do the work. So hopefully you guys, if you're interested, please feel free to go ahead and coach yourself as well. So I'm going to repeat the questions. The questions are: in what ways are you forcing something to happen that simply is not a good fit? In what ways does pride or caring too much about what others think keep you moving in a direction that is not meant for you? What new direction might it be time to embrace? Next week, we will be meeting again, and it'll be chapter 8, and the title is, What is Your Procrastination Telling You? That sounds like a good one, guys. All right, so that wraps up this week's Chrissy's Coaching Corner. I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully you got something out of it. Thank you guys for listening, tuning in, and listening to me as I share my story and as I work through these things with you. And I will see you next week.